I am being targeted currently. I mean, we have people, investigators. There was an Escalade outside of our house yesterday. There's people physically confronting the people in our lives. However, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the mortality rate is 100% for humans. And so I want my children to know that they should never trade being materially comfortable for doing what's right. And doing the right thing and doing what's good takes sacrifice. And for many, many years of my life, I chose material comfort over doing the right thing. And it's not something that I'm interested in anymore.
If you still believe the online right is a spontaneous, grassroots movement of independent thinkers fighting the system, I have a bridge to sell you. Former Maga influencer Ashley St. Clair, who was embedded inside Turning Point USA and the highest levels of conservative media, just pulled back the curtain on Mehdi Hasan's show. What she revealed isn't just spicy internet drama. It's a structural, receipts-heavy expose. We are talking about coordinated White House group chats, dark campaign money routed through political consulting houses to pay off influencers for $200 a tweet, strict censorship prohibiting anyone from calling out Israeli war crimes in Gaza, and weaponized tech platforms, including XAI's Grok, generating explicit deepfakes, used to intimidate whistleblowers who try to leave the cult. If you want independent analysis that prioritizes truth over access and people over profits, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and support The Honest Perspective. I'm Neil. This is The Honest Perspective. The MAGA machine isn't a political ideology. It is a paid AstroTurf network enforced by corporate power. Let's get into it.
Let's shift gears for a moment. You've been outspoken about the coordinated campaigns that you say are driving MAGA accounts and influencers online. You've done these TikTok videos that have gone viral, exposing some of the chats with some of your receipts. Just to be clear, what is the accusation here for people who are not following you on TikTok? Is it that MAGA influencers, the people you see on Twitter, the people who are pundits on cable news, they are all in one chat and they are getting specific talking points sent to them by Caroline Leavitt and the White House?
Well, there's not just one chat. There's multiple chats that they operate in. And these chats also have, some are just sequestered to large MAGA influencers in which they send these paid campaigns. Others have members of the administration. Others have, the Trump children. And they coordinate this messaging and react to things in real time. Here's how we respond or don't respond to any given issue at any given time. They also have the paid campaigns in which messaging is pushed out. And it is very much coordinated through both paid messaging and just wanting to be in the club and not be ostracized.
Were you in these chats yourself? You've seen this firsthand?
Yes. Yes, those screenshots are from me. I was in these chats.
And these chats are not just, lower level freaks. These are big names of the conservative media machine.
Members of Congress, members of the administration, people at the White House, people with the last name Trump.
Would someone like a Tucker Carlson have been in there until recently?
Tucker would not have been in something like this. He doesn't really use social media.
But you mentioned, for example, the Trump children. You're talking about Don and Eric are in these chats getting right into what the talking point should be.
I was in one in which Eric was in one, yes.
And who's in charge of all this? You say coordinator, like who is the person pulling all the strings?
So members of the administration, people like James Blair, who run messaging for the admin and the White House and the campaign. And there's also people who run these consulting houses, these right-wing consulting houses that push a lot of this out because they have some plausible deniability and they can hide the money. So once the money goes from the campaign to the consulting house, they can then distribute it to the influencers and it's not on any FEC report.
So when you see people tweeting something after a story breaks about Donald Trump that's bad for Trump, you can see that and go, oh yeah, that's the group. They all got the line.
Yes. Yes, and it goes beyond just the Trump administration. I've spoken about this before, but I was offered a hefty sum of money to promote Rick Grinnell for Secretary of State when the admin picks were happening. And that day that I was offered this and declined, I saw a variety of MAGA influencers who all of a sudden had the great idea spontaneously that Rick Grinnell should be Secretary of State.
That was
yes.
Money well spent, allegedly, by the Grinnell campaign. So what you're basically saying is, when I see a MAGA person online take any position, my starting point should be, is this really his position or did it come from the White House? Is this really his position or was he paid for it?
Correct.
How much do you get paid for these things?
It depends on the influencer. Some people will get more of these paid campaigns because they lower their rates, and they're the lowest rate around. But they can go from anywhere from a couple $100s to thousands of dollars for these tweets.
I can get a MAGA influencer to tweet stuff I want for a couple of $100, like a cameo.
Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Oh, wow. Now I'm getting all sorts of ideas, which I shouldn't have.
Take a look at what was just conceded on tape. Ashley St. Clair explicitly outlines the mechanism. The Trump administration and campaign used third-party consulting firms as middlemen to hide payments from Federal Election Commission reports. They pay off right-wing influencers to tweet line-for-line talking points, creating the total illusion of an organic consensus. It is paid propaganda masquerading as populist outrage. And as you're about to see, when real-world atrocities happen, like the ongoing genocide in Gaza, the exact same machine enforces total silence. Look at how the narrative changes when foreign policy comes up.
What do you make of these right-wing podcast wars, the Tucker Carlsons and Candace Owenses versus the Ben Shapiro's et al.? From what a lot of the reporting in the recent New York Magazine, Washington Post have big reports out recently about how Shapiro's media empire is on the decline. Is the mainstream MAGA movement losing to the Groyper MAGA movement, or whatever terms we want to use?
I think they are, in a sense, because whatever people may think of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, they are speaking to an issue, and the Democrats are also facing this issue in regards to Israel. Israel is a big issue. People are recognizing what's happening, that it is a genocide happening. And it is Tucker Carlson and Candace who are one of the only ones offering some sort of nuanced opinion, or at least recognizing the atrocities that are going on there, recognizing that, hey, we don't want a president that's bought by Bibi Netanyahu. So that is speaking to something and offering any difference of opinion outside of the MAGA coalition that I believe is really attractive. But I hope these individuals who are defecting, like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Tucker Carlsons, that they do a lot more than just kind of say they were duped by Trump, because they weren't. Trump has always been this way. We just failed to see it. And we really contributed to his cruelty, but I hope they also expose the things that they know, because they know a lot more than they're speaking about, and they certainly know a lot more than me.
Did I catch that correctly? Did you say what's happening in Gaza is a genocide?
Yes.
So you've also changed your positions on Israel, not just on domestic politics?
Sort of. I've never really spoken about it too much, especially being Jewish. I've had a lot of debates within my private family life, and it's been very difficult for me to have those conversations publicly because of how ostracizing it is with the communities that I'm a part of. But I've really never spoken about it too much publicly because I was in MAGA and it was not really allowed.
That is an extraordinary admission. A former conservative brand ambassador admitting on record that speaking out against Israeli war crimes in Gaza was strictly forbidden inside the MAGA movement. The exact same pundits who preach about free speech and fighting cancel culture operate under an ironclad gag order when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. weapon shipments. Now, look at what happens when an insider breaks that gag order and tries to hold the tech oligarchs accountable.
You've got lawsuits going on, custody battles, as you've said already. Donald Trump, of course, has threatened many of his opponents with lawsuits, investigations, criminal threats. Elon Musk isn't afraid to sue people he doesn't like. Musk is, of course, buddy-buddy with Trump again. We're speaking on the day they're together in China, even though last year Musk was telling us that Trump was in the Epstein files. Do you worry at all that you are now an opponent of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, two of the most powerful men on planet Earth, that you could be targeted by them in other ways, not just lawsuits?
I am being targeted currently. I mean, we have people, investigators. There was an Escalade outside of our house yesterday. There's people physically confronting the people in our lives. However, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the mortality rate is 100% for humans. And so I want my children to know that they should never trade being materially comfortable for doing what's right. And doing the right thing and doing what's good takes sacrifice. And for many, many years of my life, I chose material comfort over doing the right thing. And it's not something that I'm interested in anymore.
You are currently suing Elon Musk's XAI after its AI tool Grok created sexually explicit deep fakes of you in January, back when Grok was also getting backlash for allegedly creating child porn. As I'm sure you're aware, Grok is still making deepfakes even to this day, despite X promising to stop it. Is this an issue that Elon Musk takes seriously, do you think?
I don't think that the leadership of the XAI takes this seriously at all, because they're now countersuing me for trying to get some sort of remedy for this issue. Grok had undressed me and millions of other women and children. They undressed photos of me even as a child. I saw a young girl. She looked about 4 years old. She was completely undressed and then covered in fluids, white fluids. I don't know whose child this was. There were photos of me with my real child's backpack in the background, in which I was bent over and turned around. So no, I don't think they take this issue seriously at all. But something I do want to highlight is that this scandal happened when Grok was facing a usage issue amidst a funding round. So amidst a multi-billion-dollar funding round, this happens and their usage skyrockets. So I would like to know what the investors who invested in this funding round, what usage they were shown.
Let's step back and look at the larger, terrifying pattern connecting every single one of these moments. Because what Ashley St. Clair just laid out isn't an isolated story of personal drama. It is a structural autopsy of modern authoritarian media control. First, look at the legal and financial loopholes she exposed regarding those group chats. For years, campaign finance laws under the Federal Election Commission have required political campaigns to publicly report direct expenditures for advertising or media outreach. But what right-wing political action committees and campaign arms discovered is that by funneling millions into unregistered, private LLC consulting firms, they create a legal black box. The campaign writes a check to the consultant. The consultant pays the influencer $200 or $2,000 for a tweet, and the public is left completely in the dark. You think you're reading a passionate tweet from an independent conservative patriot, but in reality, you are looking at an undisclosed, paid advertisement coordinated directly by figures in the White House. It is astroturfing on an industrial scale. Second, notice the total collapse of their so-called free speech ethos when it comes to foreign policy and human rights. St. Clair confirmed what many of us have pointed out for months. Inside the Maga machine, calling out the genocide in Gaza or questioning unconditional U.S. military aid to Israel is treated as a fireable offense. Think about the hypocrisy. These are figures who build entire media empires claiming to fight censorship, claiming to defend objective truth against liberal orthodoxy. Yet, when presented with the systemic destruction of civilian infrastructure, mass starvation, and documented war crimes in Gaza, the entire movement enforces a strict party-line gag order. It proves that their outrage over cancel culture was never about defending free speech. It was about protecting their own access to power and political funding. Finally, look at the weaponization of tech platforms when an insider dares to break ranks. Ashley St. Clair's ongoing lawsuit against Elon Musk's XAI in New York Supreme Court reveals the dark underbelly of unchecked corporate tech power. When Grok began generating non-consensual, sexually explicit deepfakes, including images depicting her as a child, the corporate response wasn't accountability. Instead, according to her testimony, her verification was stripped, her monetization was cut off, her reach was throttled, and private investigators were deployed. And don't overlook the economic incentives, she pointed out. This wave of explicit AI generation occurred right during a multi-billion-dollar funding round for XAI. It raises a fundamental question about whether tech oligarchs are inflating platform engagement metrics on the backs of non-consensual AI abuse while using their algorithms to punish political critics. This is the ultimate lesson. The right-wing political ecosystem is not a marketplace of ideas. It is a corporate pay-to-play operation. When you are inside, you are paid to lie and enforced to stay quiet on genocide. When you step outside, the billionaires turn their algorithms, AI models, and private investigators against you. If you believe in independent journalism that refuses to bow to corporate power, tech oligarchs, or political machines, subscribe to The Honest Perspective. I'm Neil. Truth over access. People over profits. That's The Honest Perspective, and that's where I'll leave you.